This video is about the untold legends of America's Revolutionary Wars. Subscribe for more. In the spring of 1775, the wind swept across the Massachusetts landscape, carrying the distant echoes of revolution. The air was thick with tension, and the scent of gunpowder lingered like a warning. A battle was brewing, not just for independence, but for the very soul of a nation. In the heart of this tumult stood Benjamin Franklin, a man whose intellect was matched only by his unwavering belief in freedom. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows over the cobbled streets of Philadelphia, Franklin gathered a small group of patriots in a dimly lit tavern. Among them was a young soldier, Nathanael Greene, a future commander in the Continental Army. Greene's sharp eyes sparkled with determination as he recounted tales of skirmishes with British forces. "We've got to rally the colonies," he urged. "If we don't stand united, we'll be crushed under the weight of tyranny." The room erupted with agreement, voices rising in fervor, but Franklin's brow furrowed in concern. He knew the British Empire was vast, its resources nearly limitless, and their relentless grip across the Atlantic would not yield easily. Opposite Greene sat the German mercenary, Johann Schmidt, whose allegiance was torn between the crown and the cause of freedom. Schmidt had arrived in the colonies to serve the British, but the stories of the American struggle ignited a fire within him. He had witnessed the oppression of his own homeland and understood the price of freedom. As tensions mounted, he leaned forward, his voice a whisper. "I can help you," he declared, eyes darting between the patriots. "If we can strike hard and fast, we can turn the tide." Intrigued, Franklin's mind raced with possibilities. The conflict would not merely be a clash of armies, it would be a battle of wits and resolve. The British, with their well-trained troops and established naval power, were formidable foes. Yet, beyond the horizon, the smell of gunpowder signaled that the colonies were ready to ignite the war for their independence. An alliance with a man like Schmidt could provide invaluable insight, but could he truly be trusted? As the tavern's candle flickered, casting eerie shadows across the faces of those gathered, a rider burst through the door, bringing news that would change everything. "The British are marching on Concord," he gasped, breathless from his ride. "They mean to seize the arms stored there. We must act now." The room erupted in chaos. Franklin's voice rang out, cutting through the panic. "If we can intercept them, we might have a chance." Greene nodded, his determination unwavering. "I'll gather the militia. We can let them seize our weapons." Johann stood up, his heart racing. "I'll lead the way," he offered, his German accent thick with urgency. "I know the path through the woods. If we can flank them, we can catch them by surprise." Franklin surveyed the room, sensing that destiny had thrust them into this moment. They were on the brink of something monumental, a clash that could herald a new beginning or an end to their dreams of independence. As the militia gathered under the cover of night, smoldering torches illuminating their faces, Franklin felt the weight of history pressing upon them. This was not just a fight for land, this was a battle for ideology, for the principles that would shape a nation. The cold night air crackled with anticipation as they moved in stealth, hearts pounding in unison, spurred by the desire for freedom. The approach to Concord was cloaked in shadows, the distant sound of marching soldiers growing louder. The British were unsuspecting, confident in their numerical superiority. "We need to move quickly," Greene whispered, scanning the tree line. "They'll be here any moment." As they advanced, Johann led them through the underbrush, his knowledge of the terrain proving invaluable. By a sudden noise, a crack of branches sent a chill through the group. "Stay low," Greene commanded. In the heart of the woods, a British patrol emerged, their red coats stark against the muted greens and browns of the forest. For a moment, time stood still, the fate of the revolution balanced on a knife-edge edge. Then, with a rallying cry, Greene charged forward, his musket raised, echoing the fiery spirit igniting within him. The air exploded with gunfire, splintering trees and sending men tumbling to the ground. Chaos erupted, the clash of steel and the sharp cries of men battling for their lives filling the air. Johann fought fiercely, his instincts honed from years of military training. He moved fluidly among the chaos, protecting Greene's flank, his heart pounding with adrenaline and conviction. This was no longer about loyalty to the crown, it was about choosing freedom over oppression. As the battle raged, Franklin's mind raced, formulating strategies amidst the cacophony. He understood that this was only the opening skirmish in a larger war. But could they secure a victory here? Could they inspire the colonists to rise up in defiance? Suddenly, a loud explosion rocked the battlefield. The cannon fired, sending debris flying. The British, reeling from the impact, began to regroup. Press on, Don T, let them gain their footing. Green shouted, rallying the men around him. The tide of the battle ebbed and flowed, but the hearts of the patriots surged with an indomitable spirit. Johann, fighting at Green's side, saw a chance to turn the tide. He shouted, and with a nod, Green led a charge, cutting through the ranks of the British. As the fight escalated, a familiar figure emerged from the smoke, a young woman, a messenger named Abigail Adams. She had been gathering intelligence, a key mind, a valuable asset to the revolution. Ivy heard whispers of a larger British force on the way, she exclaimed, urgency etched across her face. Green hesitated, torn between the thrill of battle and the wisdom of retreating while they still could. He scanned the battlefield, weighing their losses against the promise of future victories. Franklin's voice broke through the din, steady and resolute. We have fought for our freedom today. Let us not lose it in reckless abandon. We must live to fight another day. With a heavy heart, Green nodded. Fall back. We've done enough for now. The militia, battered but unbroken, began to retreat, their spirits ignited by the fire of rebellion. As they withdrew into the cover of the trees, the sound of British soldiers shouting in confusion filled the air behind them. The victory was not complete, but it had ignited something powerful, a resolve that would bind the colonies together. As they reached a safe distance, Green turned to Johann, a newfound respect igniting between them. You fought well today, my friend. Your knowledge was invaluable. Johann nodded, a grin breaking through the gravity of the moment. Together, we can build something greater than ourselves. This is only the beginning. As dawn broke, the first rays of sunlight illuminated the blood-stained ground, a stark reminder of the battle fought and the price yet to be paid for freedom. Franklin looked over the weary faces of his compatriots, his heart swelling with pride. We've sown the seeds of revolution, my friends, he said. But we must prepare. This war is far from over. As the remnants of the militia regrouped and tended to their wounds, a new mystery surfaced, whispers of a hidden force, a shadowy group that intended to intervene in the revolutionary struggle. Who were they, and what did they seek? The question hung in the air like an unsheathed sword, foretelling that the path to independence would be fraught with challenges untold. And so, as the sun rose higher, illuminating the hopes of a nation on the brink of war, they steeled themselves for the battles to come, knowing that the fight for freedom was just beginning. The story of this struggle would ripple across the Atlantic, shaping the future of not only the United States, but of Europe, and perhaps even the distant lands of Israel. The winds of change were stirring, and the true legends of America's revolutionary wars had yet to be written. As the sun ascended over the horizon, casting golden rays on the battlefield, the remnants of the militia gathered in the clearing. The soft rustle of leaves sang a lullaby to their weary souls, but the tension in the air was palpable. Benjamin Franklin surveyed the group, noting the defeated yet defiant expressions on their faces. They had fought bravely, but the battle at Concord had been merely a prelude to the storm brewing on the horizon. Today, we tasted the bitterness of conflict, Franklin began, his voice steady. But we also witnessed the flickering flame of rebellion. If we are to forge a new destiny, we must learn from this skirmish and prepare our next steps. Nathaniel Green nodded, his brow furrowed deep in thought. We need a plan that allows us to harness this momentum. We've tasted victory, however small, and we must awaken the colonies to this cause. The word of our actions will spread, Johann Schmidt interjected, his German accent thick with determination. The British may have strength in numbers, but they lack the resolve of a united people. We can gather more allies. Franklin remained silent for a moment, contemplating their next move. The British army would not sit idle. They would come for them with renewed fury, and they needed to forge alliances in the coming days, both with other colonies and with disillusioned British soldiers, like Johann, who were beginning to question their loyalty. We must reach out to the other colonies, Franklin finally stated, his mind racing with possibilities. And we must find means to gather intelligence on British movements. Abigail, your network will be crucial. Can we rely on your swift communications? The Abigail Adams, having successfully maneuvered through the chaos, stepped forward. I have contacts in Boston and beyond. We can travel faster than a musket ball if we can keep the lines of communication open. But we must also be cautious. There are spies among us, loyalists, who will share our secrets with the British. The group nodded in understanding, the weight of their mission pressing heavily on their shoulders. Green turned his gaze toward Johann. Can you help us understand the British strategic movements? Johann's eyes gleamed with purpose. Absolutely. I witness their formations and understand their tactics. If we can predict their moves, we can counter them effectively. As they forged their plans under the morning sun, news reached them that the British were regrouping, their numbers bolstered by reinforcements. The stakes were rising, and the battle for the hearts and minds of the American colonies was merely beginning. The following days saw the militia expand. Men from neighboring towns joined, enticed by news of the skirmish and the growing spirit of rebellion. Franklin guided them with wisdom, urging the importance of unity and strategy. As word spread, more volunteers arrived, including men of diverse backgrounds, farmers, artisans, and even a few freed slaves, each eager to fight against the tyranny that threatened their aspirations for a better life. Yet, amidst the fervor, a sense of foreboding lingered. Rumors of a shadowy faction, an organization known only as the Sons of the Crown, surfaced. This group was said to be gathering intelligence for the British, targeting revolutionaries to crush their spirit and sabotage the fight for independence. The militia knew they had to operate with utmost secrecy, for the path ahead was riddled with dangers both external and internal. Weeks passed, and the air thickened with anticipation as Franklin, Greene, Johann, and Abigail met in clandestine gatherings. They strategized, planned ambushes, and forged letters to rally support from influential figures in the colonies and abroad. Their network expanded, and with it, their resolve deepened. One evening, as they gathered in a dimly lit room, Abigail entered with urgency. "I have news from Boston," she exclaimed, her breath ragged from running. "The British are planning a raid to secure more supplies. They believe we are a week after Concord, and they will strike at night." Greene stood, his heart racing. "This is our chance to strike a decisive blow." "But the chances of being outnumbered are high," Johann cautioned. "We must be strategic. If we can draw them into the woods, we can use their own confidence against them." Franklin nodded, his mind racing with possibilities. "We must also consider the presence of the Sons of the Crown. If they are aware of our movements, they could undermine our efforts." With a plan forming, the group quickly divided roles. Greene would lead the militia to intercept the British forces, while Johann and Abigail worked on securing the lines of communication, ensuring that their movements would remain a secret. Franklin crafted an appeal to the colonies, rallying support and ensuring that news of their bravery reached far and wide. As dusk fell, the militia gathered at the edge of the woods, the shadows playing tricks on their minds. Each soldier carried the weight of their duty, their hearts united by a singular purpose. The distant sound of marching feet shattered the silence, and Greene raised his musket, signaling the men to take their positions. The British approached, confidence radiating from their ranks. Greene could see the glimmers of their bayonets reflecting the moonlight. "Steady," he whispered, his breath steadying the nerves of the men around him. "Remember, we know the land. We can outmaneuver them." With the British encroaching, the tension thickened like molasses. Suddenly, a loud crack echoed through the trees, a tree branch snapping underfoot. The British halted, suspicion brimming in their ranks. "Advance," their commander barked, believing they had the upper hand. As the British moved closer, Greene raised his hand. He shouted, and the patriots erupted from the underbrush, muskets firing in unison. The night exploded into chaos, the clash of steel and the cries of men filling the air. Johann, fighting alongside Greene, moved with precision. His knowledge of the British tactics allowed him to anticipate their maneuvers, guiding his compatriots through the melee. "Flank left," he called, directing a group of men to cut off the British advance. Abigail watched from a concealed vantage point, her heart pounding as she relayed messages back to those still in hiding. She understood the stakes had never been higher. The shadows of the Sons of the Crown loomed closer, threatening to unravel all they had fought for. The battle raged on, the cries of the wounded echoing in the night. Greene fought fiercely, driven by the faces of those who believed in their cause. The British, caught off guard, began to falter. "We can let them regroup," he shouted, rallying his men for a final push. But just as victory seemed within reach, chaos ensued. A sound like thunder rumbled in the distance. A second British battalion, alerted by the noise of battle, marched in heavy boots toward the fray. The weight of despair crashed over Greene's heart. He commanded, sensing the tide of battle shifting yet again. As the patriots began to withdraw, the shadowy figures of the Sons of the Crown emerged from the trees, their eyes glinting with malice. They had been watching, waiting for the opportunity to strike, and now they were ready to pounce on the weary militia. Amidst the confusion, Johann turned to Greene, urgency etched in his features. "We cannot allow this fight to extinguish our spirit." With their retreat growing frantic, Franklin's voice rang in Greene's mind. The fight was far from over, but the stakes had never been higher. They had ignited a movement that could change the course of history, yet the forces of oppression were lurking closer than ever. As the militia disappeared into the cover of the trees, the realization settled heavily on their shoulders. A war was brewing that would ripple across continents, intertwining the fates of the United States, Germany, Europe, and even the distant lands of Israel. The battle for freedom was only just beginning, and the legends of their struggle would echo through time. In the shadows of the night, they made their way toward a new dawn, unaware of the greater battles that awaited them on the horizon, ready to challenge not only their courage but also the very ideals that would shape a nation. The fight for independence had become entwined with secret alliances, and the lingering scent of war. The road ahead was filled with uncertainty, but their resolve was iron-cut. As they reached the safety of their encampment, Green turned to his compatriots, the fire of rebellion burning fiercely in his chest. "This is just the beginning. We will rise again. We will not falter." And so, with the darkness behind them and the dawn ahead, they steeled themselves for the challenges yet to come, knowing that the true legends of America's Revolutionary Wars remained unwritten, and the next chapter awaited just beyond the horizon. As the echoes of the night battle faded into the distance, Nathanael Greene and his band of patriots trudged through the underbrush, their hearts heavy with the weight of defeat yet ignited by the fire of rebellion. The chilling realization of the approaching British reinforcements had forced them into retreat, but they were more determined than ever to reclaim their momentum and inspire their fellow colonists. The encampment was a haze of flickering lanterns, shadows dancing across the faces of weary but resolute men and women. Green stepped forward, his voice rising above the murmurs of discontent. "We've faced a setback, but let us not yield to despair. We've tasted battle and forged bonds stronger than iron. This is not just our fight, it is a fight for every colonist who dreams of freedom." "It's true," replied Johann Schmidt, his brow furrowed in contemplation. "They are not mere whispers, they are a tangible danger, a force working against us from within. We need to identify and neutralize them before they undermine our efforts." Abigail Adams stepped forward, her eyes fierce with determination. "If we can root out these spies, we can diminish their influence and regain our strength. Word is spreading about our skirmishes, but so is the fear. We need to rally the courage of our neighbors and show them their defiance can lead to victory." Green nodded, appreciating the sharpness of their insights. "Then that is our course. We must gather intelligence, bolster our ranks, and prepare for the inevitable battles that lay ahead. We owe it to those who have fallen, and to those who still fight for their freedom." As they set their plans into motion, days turned into weeks, each one marked by the rhythm of preparation and the urgency of stealth. The militia's number swelled. Farmers, craftsmen, and even women prepared to fight, driven by the fervor ignited in Concord's wake. The spirit of rebellion coursed through the colonies, igniting a flame that could not be extinguished. In the quiet moments between planning and training, Green found himself reflecting on the broader implications of this struggle. He thought of the German soldiers like Johann, who, despite their initial allegiance to the crown, were beginning to question their purpose. What did freedom mean for them? Could their fight against tyranny transcend borders, inspiring others, even in Europe and beyond? The echoes of their revolution could ripple far and wide, reaching to distant lands, perhaps even touching the hopes of those in Israel who yearned for their own liberation. The fever of revolution reached its zenith as news spread of another British campaign aimed directly at Boston. The British sought to suppress the growing rebellion with an iron fist, believing that a decisive blow could quell the rest of colonies. Green understood that this was their opportunity, their chance to strike at the heart of British oppression before it could strengthen further. "We must prepare for a decisive engagement," Green announced in a meeting one evening. "Reports suggest that the British will march in full force to Boston. They are overconfident, believing we are disorganized and weak. We can use that against them." Johann leaned forward, his experience as a soldier lending weight to his words. "We know their tactics, we can anticipate their movements. If we can flank them at the right moment, we can turn the tide." Abigail chimed in. "If we can spread word of this planned engagement, it will galvanize more individuals to our cause. A show of force can inspire neighboring colonies to join us, and we must not shy away from this moment." Franklin lent his pen to crafting pamphlets and letters, calling the colonists to arms, stirring their hearts with tales of bravery and the necessity of unity. The streets of Philadelphia buzzed with fervor, and soon word had spread to every corner of the colonies. The time had come to strike back. As the dawn of the British offensive approached, Green gathered his troops, their faces illuminated by the first light of day. "Today, we fight not just for independence, but for every person who seeks freedom and justice," he shouted, galvanizing the men and women around him. "We will show the British that our spirit cannot be crushed." The sound of drums echoed through the trees, blending with the shouts of soldiers and the clatter of weapons being readied. Green felt the weight of history pressing upon him. This was no mere battle, but a crossroads that could determine the fate of the fledgling nation. As the sun climbed higher, the militia moved into position. They utilized the landscape to their advantage, knowing the terrain well. Green and Johann coordinated their strategies, leading groups into carefully planned ambushes. Each soldier, whether seasoned or a newcomer, was infused with a sense of purpose, their hearts united in defiance against tyranny. The march of the British was relentless, their columns moving with precision, unaware of the storm brewing around them. Suddenly, a signal shot rang out, and chaos erupted. Green's men surged from the trees, rifles raised and battle cries echoing through the air. The British, caught off guard, scrambled to regain their composure. "Push forward. Flank them," Johann shouted, his voice cutting through the din of battle as the Patriots advanced with unmatched fervor. Green fought alongside his men, each step fueled by the knowledge that this battle could determine the path of their struggle. Amidst the melee, Abigail darted between the lines, delivering messages and commands, her keen eyes scanning for signs of the Sons of the Crown. She understood that the fight was not just against the British forces, but also against those who would betray the very ideals they fought for. As the battle raged on, the tide began to shift. Green noted the British soldiers faltering, their confidence shaken by the fierce resistance. But just as victory seemed within reach, a familiar danger reared its head. The Sons of the Crown, emerging from the shadows, intent on sabotaging the Patriots' efforts once and for all. A single figure moved through the chaos, a traitor who had been lurking, feeding intelligence back to the British. Green recognized him, a former comrade turned loyalist, his heart pounding with fury at the betrayal. Green shouted, his voice rising above the fray. "You've turned against us. This is not just a fight for our freedom. This is a fight against treachery." The loyalist smirked, his eyes glinting with malice. "You will never win this war. You are fools to think you can stand against the might of the British Empire." With a surge of rage, Green charged, the rest of the battle fading as he closed the distance. The confrontation became a microcosm of the larger struggle. It was a fight not only against an enemy, but against the very idea of betrayal. Just as he reached the traitor, a loud crack rang out, a gunshot fired from the shadows. Green felt a sharp pain rip through his side, staggering him. The world around him bled as he fell to the ground, the sounds of battle drowning in the rush of blood pounding in his ears. As darkness began to close in, he caught a glimpse of Johann rushing toward him, his face a mask of determination and fear. "Stay with us, Nathaniel," Johann shouted, but the edges of Green's vision began to fade, the lines of reality blurring into darkness. As the chaos of the battlefield raged on around him, Green's last thought lingered. This fight was not over. The struggle for their freedom would continue, and his comrades must carry on the legends of their revolution would not end here, not with the blood of patriots spilt in vain. In the heart of the chaos, the fire of rebellion blazed on, igniting a passion that would reach far beyond the borders of America, touching the hearts of those yearning for freedom across Europe and even as far as Israel. The battle had just begun, the stakes higher than ever. As darkness engulfed Green, a new dawn awaited on the horizon, beckoning them toward the legacy they were destined to create. And within the shadows, the Sons of the Crown plotted their next move, their intentions hidden but ever present, threatening to crush the very dreams for which they fought. What would Green's fate be? Would he rise again to lead them in a fight for freedom, or would the tide turn against the revolution they had ignited? The next chapter of their story awaited just beyond the edge of dawn. As Nathaniel Green lay on the battlefield, the world fading around him, the sounds of chaos receded into an echoing silence. His mind raced, grappling with the urgency of the moment, the weight of his comrades' hopes resting on his shoulders. He could not allow this fight for freedom to die with him. The spirit of rebellion burned too fiercely for that, and he would not be the last flame extinguished. In the thick of the fray, Johann Schmidt fought valiantly, rallying the remaining militia around him. He had witnessed Green fall, and the sight stoked a fury within him. For Green, for freedom, he bellowed, lifting his musket and firing into the fray, igniting a fierce resistance among the patriots. With every shot, he fueled their resolve, determined to avenge their fallen leader and carry on the fight for independence. Abigail Adams, meanwhile, darted through the battlefield, her heart pounding with adrenaline. She spotted the traitor, the loyalist who had shot Green, lurking amidst the chaos. "Justice will be served," she shouted, steeling herself for the confrontation. In the midst of the battle, her voice rang out, drawing attention as she moved to confront the man who had betrayed them. The loyalist, realizing he had been spotted, attempted to flee into the shadows, but Abigail was faster. With a swift motion, she tackled him to the ground, her determination fueled by the desperate need to protect her comrades. "You think you can betray us and escape unscathed?" she snarled, pinning him down. As the two grappled, the tide of battle shifted. The Patriots, inspired by Johan's rallying cries and Abigail's fierce pursuit of justice, surged forward, pushing back against the British ranks. The redcoats stumbled under the ferocity of the assault, their confidence waning as the militia proved they would not go down without a fight. The roar of musket fire echoed through the air, mingling with the shouts of men and the cries of the wounded. In the midst of the fray, Green's consciousness flickered like a candle in the wind. Surrounded by darkness, he felt himself pulled away from the battlefield, and then suddenly, a mighty roar filled his ears, igniting a spark within him. He could hear the voices of his friends, the call to arms, the urgency of their fight. "I couldn't leave them," he murmured, a fierce resolve igniting in his heart. With a tremendous effort, he forced himself to awaken, the pain shooting through his body, igniting a clarity of purpose. Green opened his eyes to the chaos around him, the adrenaline surging through his veins, propelling him back onto the battlefield. He saw Johann, his face fierce with determination, leading the men. Abigail had the loyalists pinned down, shouting for help. Green staggered to his feet, his side aching fiercely, but he pushed through the pain, driven by the fire of rebellion. "Rally around me." The Green's voice cut through the din, igniting their spirits once more. "We fight for our freedom. For every man, woman, and child who dreams of a better world. Together we shall prevail." With renewed vigor, his comrades surged toward him, the sight of their leader rallying them igniting a resurgence of courage. The British soldiers, taken aback by Green's miraculous return, faltered, their lines breaking as the Patriots bore down upon them like a storm. Abigail finally pinned the loyalist down, determined to make him pay for his betrayal. "You will not ruin our cause," she shouted, looking into the traitor's eyes. With a swift motion, she pulled a rope from her satchel, tying him up as the chaos swirled around them. She had to keep him from escaping, to ensure that his treason wouldn't be allowed to fester among their ranks. The battlefield turned into a whirlwind of action as Green led his men forward, pushing into the heart of the British formation. "Flank them. Take advantage of their confusion," he commanded, his voice ringing with authority. Johann moved alongside him, guiding their men with precision, anticipating the enemy's movements, and relaying strategies with clarity. As the battle continued, the British forces began to realize that they were facing a tide of resistance they had not anticipated. The militia fought with an intensity born from desperation, fueled by the dreams of freedom that echoed throughout the colonies. Each shot fired, each step taken, was a testament to their resolve, a declaration that they would not be subjugated. The loyalist knew he was losing ground, and as he struggled against his restraints, he glared at Abigail. "You think this is the end? You are merely delaying the inevitable. The British Empire will crush you." Abigail met his gaze with fierce defiance. "We are not just fighting against your empire. We are fighting for a future where people are free to choose their own destinies. You will see that soon enough." The British soldiers, once confident in their superiority, began to falter, realizing they were up against not just a ragtag militia but a united front of men and women determined to claim their freedom. As the British ranks began to break, Green seized the moment, charging forward with Johann by his side. "Press on, we can turn the tide today." With a deafening roar, the Patriots surged forward, and the British soldiers, disoriented and demoralized, began to retreat. The cries of victory echoed as the militia pushed them back, out of the woods and toward the open fields. Green, fueled by adrenaline, pressed on, knowing that this was the moment they had fought for a chance to secure their future. As the sun began to dip below the horizon, casting a golden light over the battlefield, the remnants of the British forces scattered, their resolve broken. The cry of victory erupted from the Patriots as they stood tall, united in their triumph. Green, breathless but filled with overwhelming pride, looked at his comrades, the brave souls who had stood by him through the storm. "We have shown them today that we will not be silenced," he shouted, his voice ringing with triumph. "This is not just a battle, it is a message. We will rise, and we will fight for the freedom that is our birthright." As they celebrated their hard-won victory, Green turned to Johann, who stood beside him, a grin spreading across his face. "We did it, my friend. Together, we turned the tide." Johann nodded, his eyes shining with determination. "But this is just the beginning. We must prepare for what is to come. The fight may continue, but we have proven today that our spirit cannot be crushed." Abigail joined them, her heart swelling with pride. And we will ensure that every colony knows of our victory today. We will inspire them to rise and join the fight, to believe in the possibility of freedom. As the sun set, casting a warm glow over the battlefield, Green, Johann, and Abigail stood together, united in purpose. The echoes of their struggle would resonate far beyond the borders of America, igniting a fire of rebellion that would ripple through Europe and reach the distant shores of Israel. Their fight for freedom had become a beacon of hope, transcending borders and inspiring oppressed souls everywhere. With hearts ablaze, they steeled themselves for the road ahead, knowing that the true legends of America's Revolutionary Wars had just begun to unfold. The fight for independence was far from over, but they were ready, determined to forge a new future where the ideals of liberty and justice reigned supreme. Together, they would write the next chapter of their story, a story of resilience, of unity, and of the undying quest for freedom that would echo through time and inspire generations to come. The dawn of a new era awaited, and they would not falter in their pursuit of a destiny defined by their own making.